Good morning and welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host of How to Fight CPS. And hang on to your children. Get your children back. Don't lose your children. Um, that is so hard when that does happen to you. Okay. I thank you very much for coming to this podcast. You found me through uh, Facebook, Fighting CPS, and I'm broadcasting on YouTube using the StreamYard application. And I do have co-hosts. I got to find out where they're at. Um, Danielle said she'd be on this morning, and of course Faye is on. So, uh, okay, okay. All right, we sent a message to uh, Danielle, who's my co-host, and see if she'll come on there. And okay, we sent one to Faye. Now, there's a couple ways you can interact with this podcast. The first way is you can see my number is up on the screen. It's Bob Pace's call in at 626-698-0990. That's my office phone, and it's available right now from 10 to 11. Again, I'm on at night at 7 to 8. I'm on 7 days a week, 14 shows, and my cell phone is on during that time. The rest of the time, it's parked. So that's one way you can interact with this podcast. You can actually call in. You won't be on cam, but your voice will be in the background, and you can ask your questions or make your comments, and we can try to help you in the room. I'd love to help you out there. Another way you can work the podcast is to send in comments. Now, it's very important when you type in the comments, you want to first type, you want to type in your CPS question. It could be a comment or a question for a friend or whatever. But please show me your name, city, state, or country and be complete with your CPS case. Now, the reason why I need the city and the state or the country is because I'm trying to get an idea across the country where if there is any good CPS agencies, I'd love to find them. So far, I really haven't found them. Almost all the states have said the same thing. They take your children immediately because they always think they're in danger, and they do no family reunification, which is something they're supposed to do. Now, I mentioned country because there are actually people from around the world that sees this podcast. And I welcome them too because they have CPS cases too. And they have been. I've had Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, country in South America called Ghana that has called in, Mexico, and then Mozambique in Africa. That's on the east side of Africa, above South Africa, across from Madagascar. And then Denmark. And recently I got in Liberia. Now, Liberia is a country on the west coast of Africa, and it has also called in a program. The person called in said he's part of the scout program. I guess scouting is really big time in Liberia with protecting the youth and so forth. But anyway, I really enjoy your comments. I want to help you. I want to answer your comments. So feel free to express yourself and type in your comments. So that is the second way that you can interact with his podcast. Now, another way is that you can contact my show producer and be a guest on the show. And when you contact her, well, I didn't see it. There it is. Okay. You can email her. Now, her name is Grace. She's the show producer. She works very hard behind the scenes. She'll help you get on to the application and so forth. So you email her, and she's at, oops, I didn't have that. I still don't have it. Okay. To schedule you as a guest, you email to the show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And she will gladly put you on the show and go over what you can do and so forth. So anyway, that's another way. So you can call in, or you can text in comments, or email my producer at Grace at vincentwdavis.com. Now, I'm going to leave the phone number on right now until someone calls there. I see someone's coming in the room. Oh, Faye, yes. Okay, great. I hear that. So she's having technical difficulties. Well, I'm glad you're here, Faye. You've been really helpful with the topic the other day. That was nice. You came up with a good topic and so forth. This room is open to topics, things about related to CPS. Everybody's supposed to be positive in this room. We want to be nice to each other, and we want to help each other. I'm not an attorney, and these are important matters that you're involved in, and it does need an attorney. And that's where I talk about my rules. So in a few minutes, I will do that. Now, my other co-host Danielle will not be on. She's having technical difficulties, so maybe she'll be on tonight. Now, I have 3 basic rules that relate to my experiences in CPS. All of you are at certain stages of your CPS, or maybe you're just curious. I do hope that we do have a social worker that calls in again. I had one so far, Carol from Maryland, who was nice to spend 40 minutes and talk about how she understood CPS is supposed to work. Right now, we're having a little trouble believing that they are not corrupt, because all the time we're constantly seeing indicators. Like, one, there's these peak ladies in Prescott, Arizona that I talk about. In 2022, they're social workers, 8 of them. They decided to make T-shirts. They're pink in color, and on the front, it says professional kidnappers. Now, that may take you kind of breast, but that's your social workers, professional kidnappers. And on the back, they say, do you know where your children are? Now, those messages are really bad, and they parade it around in public, in the stores. They got all kinds of weird looks, and on top of that, they were fired. All 8 of them are gone. That's 25 years of experience they had together, and the whole department's gone, including the director. There's only one person left, and I guess he was the guy who decided to participate. But anyway, Prescott's looking for social workers. And, CPS, Child Protection System, and it's different acronyms in every state. Like in Arizona, it's DCS, Department of Child Services. In other states, it's Department of Family and Child Services. It's the same thing. So when I say CPS, I mean all of them. And they're supposed to protect your child from abuse and neglect and to family reunification. They're not supposed to use it for their own financial gain. It's a money making business. It's $80 billion a year that they spend, that they get with aid from the U.S. government. 80 billion, billion. And it's wrong because they abuse it. There's no transparency. They get $20,000 per child per month. In the Orange County area. In the LA County, it's $15,000 per month. It's just amazing how much money they get. They don't even get that. They get money for foster care, $5,000 a month. It goes on and on and on. In fact, where Faye's from Richmond, Kentucky, they're up to now $800,000 of unaccountable. They did an audit, and they can't show where $800,000 went. That's ludicrous. That's a lot of money, and it shouldn't be that. My social worker, by the way, was a young girl who had no experience in social work. She had no college degree. She had nothing in social work. She was not a clinical psychiatrist. She didn't have a family. And here she is dictating to me what I need to do with my family. And she hurt us bad. She lied on the witness stand, and she has an open lawsuit against her. And if I had the money, she would be sued, because what she did is that she told us that I'll never see our daughter again. And she took revenge. That's the trouble with social workers. They do revenge. They are so mean and disgustable. I don't know how much to emphasize it. That's my personal case. I'm talking firsthand. But I think many of you, actually 99% of you, the 500 some people I've talked to in states, agree that your child is in immediate danger. My children were not. They were not in immediate danger. In fact, they were in school when they were taken from us on that day they came to investigate my home after hounding me for 5 years because of layman allegations that were called in constantly as my wife's family was making these allegations. And for 5 years, I held them off. But then they used a police detective and tricked me. And of course, I wanted to follow the law. I didn't know what the law was, so I followed the detective home. And sure enough, there was 9 of them there in my yard, 3 social workers, 2 code enforcement, 5 firemen, 2 policemen in uniform, the detective, all wanted to go to my house. It was ridiculous. I should have said, if I knew my rules, I should have said, no, you're not going to my house. Can I have your card? I need to talk to my attorney. You don't need to talk to him. It's yes, no answers. I did not know any of that. I did not know that, and most people don't. I was talking to a couple from Louisiana that the guy was in the backyard, and the social worker came up and conned the husband to go in to see his wife who was laying down not feeling well. And they came into the home, and then they took the kids. They put them in a van. I mean, it's ludicrous. They don't even use warrants anymore. They just tell you because most parents don't know that. So anytime that they want to come in your home, you can say no. If they want to talk to you, you can say no. And that goes for the police too. You don't have to talk to the police. You don't have to, either they arrest you or they write you a citation or whatever the case may be, but you don't have to talk to them. And an easy way out of it is just to say, I need to talk to my attorney. That is your constitutional rights to be representative in any legal matter by attorney. So you have that right to contact your attorney. So you don't have to do that. Really, I don't know, Faye, because, well, there's no other comments in chat except yours, Faye. Faye, there's only 3 of them right now. There's only 3 comments, so I don't see any other comments. We have several people in the room, and we have some emojis, some smiley faces, some hearts and stuff, so and thumbs up. But you're okay. There's no comments to see. So anyway, I'm talking about my rule number 3, entering the premises. And I'm taking my rules out of order because I don't want to sound so repetitious. But, you don't let them in your home. I did. It was a mistake. And I also talked to him, and that was another mistake. You don't talk to social workers. You don't talk to police. You don't let them in your home. And the reason being is that they'll use in your home what they see. They go through your underwear drawer, which I don't understand. They go through everything in the house when they go in there. So it's your own private castle, and you have a constitutional right. They're supposed to have a warrant, a legal documentation from the court, signed by a judge, embossed with the seal, and then have it correctly filled out. Um, Good morning, Faye. How are you?
I'm good.
Well, I'm glad you called in. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I think the reason why there's nobody in the room is that maybe they're elsewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to read something to you real quick.
All right, yeah, I'd like that. I'd like to hear that.
We was doing some more research on this intrinsic and extrinsic fraud stuff last night.
Yes, that topic you brought up, yes.
So here, and I think this is just speaking on fraud, but I mean, fraud is fraud, whether it's intrinsic, extrinsic, or just fraud. So it says, in Kentucky, a fraudulently obtained judgment can be challenged even after the statute of limitations has expired. That's where the intrinsic comes in, I believe.
Okay.
This is because fraud on the court is considered a serious offense that undermines the integrity of the judicial process. According to federal and state legal principles, courts have the inherent power to set aside judgments obtained by fraud on the court, regardless of the passage of time. Fraud on the court involves conduct that directly corrupts the judicial process, such as submitting false evidence or engaging in deceptive or manipulative practices that mislead the court. This type of fraud is not subject to the usual statutes of limitations because it affects the court's ability to function impartially, unbiased, and fairly.
Wow.
The federal rules of civil procedure, specifically Rule 60D, subsection 3, allow courts to set aside a judgment based on fraud upon the court without any time limitation. In Kentucky, the principles governing fraud on the court are consistent with these federal standards. The Kentucky Rules of Professional Conduct also emphasize the duty of lawyers to avoid engaging in misleading, manipulative conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, misrepresentation, which can lead to disciplinary actions and the setting aside of judgments obtained through such misconduct. Therefore, in juvenile cases in Kentucky, if a judgment was obtained through fraudulent means, it can be challenged and set aside, even if the statute of limitations for other types of legal actions has expired. This ensures that the judicial process remains fair and just, and that fraudulent actions do not go unchecked.
Where did you find that? That was really great. I mean,
just searching through, what was this, Google Scholar, and a bunch of other places. And then it says here, let's see. I cut on off reading. A plaintiff or party. Okay, these were California. So it's interesting to hear this one. It says, this is just bits and pieces of stuff we were reading. This is plaintiffs alleging extrinsic fraud on a state court is not alleging a legal error by the state court, but rather a wrongful act committed by an adverse party. Meyer versus County of San Diego, 2021. It It says Rooker-Feldman does not bar federal jurisdiction over claims asserting that state court judgments have been obtained by extrinsic fraud upon the court. In Andrew versus California Department of Consumer Affairs. So that wasn't dealing with CPS, but it still applies in contract law too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says the Rooker-Feldman doctrine does not apply if intrinsic fraud prevented a party from presenting his claim in state court.
Okay.
And that was Huckle versus U.S. Department of Health and Human Services,
Okay.
2017.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting the stuff you find on there.
I agree. I mean, that thing you started yesterday and so forth gives you hope because, you know, my daughter, the social worker lied on the stand, and they were trying to. My wife's sister and husband were trying to adopt our daughter, and when there was a question about domestic violence in the home, she said no, and then the social worker says that there's been no domestic violence, which is not true. Because they got all kinds. I mean, all you have to do is it's reported, so it shot them in the foot. So she lied under oath in the court.
Shut up, baby.
And she ended up, committing. I don't know what else you call it. Fraud in the court. Is that fraud? The lie?
Well, it's perjury, and perjury is a type of fraud, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It's lying under oath.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's interesting. But here, listen to this though, Bob.
Okay.
Even though it says that what I read you said that there was no statute of limitations, every attorney I call and I talk to brings up statute of limitations.
Wow. Every attorney says right off the bat, it's too long. There's limitations on when you can sue them.
Yep, and it clearly says right here, fraud on the court involves conduct that directly corrupts the judicial process, such as submitting false evidence or engaging in deceptive, manipulative practices that mislead the court. This type of fraud is not subject to the usual statutes of limitations because it affects the court's ability to function impartially, unbiased, and fairly. The federal rules of civil procedure, specifically Rule 60D, allow courts to set aside a judgment for fraud on the court without any time limitation.
Wow.
But every attorney in the state of Kentucky that I call says there's nothing you can do because the statute of limitations for fraud is ran out.
Wow. Have you brought up your findings to them now since you have that? I think you should try that now with one of the attorneys.
I have. I did.
Oh,
I did.
And what did they say?
Yeah.
What
did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. What did they say? What did the attorney say?
She just kept going back to fraud and statute of limitations. I'm like, yes, I understand that
there may be
fraud has a statute of limitations.
Yes.
I get that. I understand that. But then there's also types of fraud that can be set aside of the limitation.
Wow.
If you can prove that it occurred in your case. And they didn't know what to say. They just put me off.
Wow. Well, I think what you have to do is you have to get maybe a law firm at school. You know, University of Kentucky's right there, isn't it?
No, I'm in EKU campus.
Okay.
Eastern Kentucky
Well,
University.
you could talk to Eastern Kentucky. They have a law department, and you could speak to one of the law professors and see what he thinks.
Yeah.
It's something that the students could investigate. I mean, it's nothing to lose. It's nothing to lose. In fact, I was called Lakota University up in South Dakota. It's an Indian reservation. I mean, Indian University, Lakota Sioux, and I was trying to find my great grandmother. And so I called Lakota, and they were very helpful. They put me all different departments and so forth. And I know the school that I went to out here in California, I've been to the law library there, and there's a lot of useful information that can help you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just don't understand it. It's like these attorneys are just like, sorry, can't help you, statute of limitations ran out. But then why does it sit here and say that this type of fraud doesn't have a statute of limitations if you can prove it in your case?
Yeah. Wow.
You know, it doesn't make no sense to me, but I don't know. I just thought that was interesting, and I would read it to you because I get told by every single attorney, oh, well, you know, your case is more than 5 years old, so you have no chance.
Oh, geez. Is that what the statute of limitation they say is 5?
3 and 5 years at the most.
Okay, 3 and 5, yeah. Well, you know, maybe you should go visit Vincent's room again and bring it up and see what he has to say.
I probably will. And then if I can afford to next month, I'm probably going to do a consult with him and ask him about this.
Yeah.
I do know that our laws here are a little bit different than what's in California. California and even in Florida is different.
Yeah, I'm afraid sometimes
they're similar, but they're different as well. Trying to find something else. What am I looking for? Let's go.
I don't know where our regular people are this morning. It's really strange. Yeah. You're right. There's 4 comments from you and nobody else. And there's been several people that have been viewing us, but it's like a slow morning, I guess. But anyway, we have Faye on the line. Any of you that would like to write comments in there, that'd be much appreciated. We'd love to hear from you and talk to you. And if you have a question too that we can help you, we put the comment back up there again. And then it's like that.
Somebody's at the door. Hold on.
All right. Anyway, Faye has real life to deal with. She got a dog at the door. I was talking about rule number 3. I'm not letting them in not letting them in. And so here, let me see something here. I'll just go ahead and do it for a second while she takes care of her dog. So it is behooves you to not let them in your home. That's the biggest mistake you make without a warrant. And I'm telling you that. I got you back live, Faye. Oops, nope, still got dogs. So I like to paint a picture in your mind. There's a gentleman named Roger who's in Florida. He's a veteran. He was serving in the Air Force, a young man, 23, that was shot and killed on May 3rd. And it's because you opened the door. And that can happen. The person that shoots through it can happen on both sides of the door. The sheriff had knocked a couple times, said nothing. And then when it knocked, I think, a third time and said, "This is the sheriff, open up." It was not very cordial, and the guy inside didn't know what to expect. So he had got his gun, we had license to hold, but it was at his side. It wasn't pointing at the door. And when he opened the door, the sheriff, without warning, fired 5 shots straightly into the chest, killing him, and he died on the camera, the sheriff's camera, and he was talking to his girlfriend on FaceTime. And it was a sad thing to do. It was a sad thing to do. I have you back live, Faye. I just had you closed because of the dog. So, anyway, Faye's taking care of someone at the door. But anyway, this guy fired him. He could have shot him in the foot, in the arm, in the shoulder, at the hand, but he just did. And furthermore, the guy who answered the door should never answer the door. Yesterday my door rang. I did not answer it. I don't have to answer the doors. I have a email, I have a mail, and I have a phone. And if people want to reach me, they can leave messages and I can call them back. I don't answer phone calls either unless it's recognized who the person's calling. So I don't answer the phone. So you can imagine this black man dying on the floor with his girlfriend. And it was sad. It was really sad that was happening. So it's a lesson learned. You don't open the door. Now, how it could have been done is that when the policeman heard there was domestic violence going on in an apartment, he could have checked around the walls, the windows, the other places and listened. But he was alone. There was no domestic violence. We don't know if it's a wrong mistake. A realtor girl, because it was a locked apartment complex, let him in and tried to show him where she thought the domestic violence was happening. But it wasn't happening there. So what the sheriff could have done is that he could have knocked on the door once, loudly and firmly. This is the Gainesville Sheriff's Department. We hear reports of domestic violence. Are you alone in there? And you can wait to hear a response. And if you are alone there, could you please unlock the door, lay face down, put your hands behind your head, and if you have a weapon, to drop it, put it to the side of you. Then he could approach from the either side of the door jamb, not stand in front of the door, because he can be shot. People are shot all the time standing in front of doors. Then he can peer in and diffuse the situation or look it over. So that's how it could have been handled. He could have came in, handcuffed him, and then searched the apartment. But instead, we have a dead man that will probably be forgotten, which is sad. All he was doing in life was serving our country in the Air Force. He was being a good citizen, a good person. And he's buried 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, I think it was. Anyway, this is tragedy. It still hurts me. And so we don't know what the situation is. The Gainesville, Florida Sheriff's Department has not said anything further. So I wanted to say sorry for that.
Hey, Bob, listen to this.
Yes.
There was a Snyder versus the United States. It was a case, and it had the U.S. Code 18 USD subsection 666 says it makes it a federal crime for a state or local official to corruptly solicit, demand, or accept anything of value from any person intending to be influenced or rewarded in connection with any government business involving anything of value of $5,000 or more. The question presented on which the circuits are divided is whether subsection 666 criminalizes gratuities, i.e. payments in recognition of action the official has already taken or committed to take without any quid pro quo agreement to take those actions. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. Jeez. That's a low. That's a low amount. That's only $5,000.
Yeah, but did you hear the subsection? It was under
Yeah.
18 USC subsection 666.
Oh, wow. 3 sixes. I forgot, what does 3 sixes mean? I forgot that.
I mean, it's a controversial number.
Oh.
Some people think that it means of a demonic nature or evil.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And you read
And it talks about 666 in the Bible.
Yeah.
I just thought that was very odd that would be under that subsection and that number.
I agree. Excuse me.
You okay?
Yeah. It went down the wrong windpipe. I need to drink more water.
Okay. Yeah, water is beneficial. You're supposed to drink at least 8 glasses a day.
I know. I think I'm drinking maybe 2. That's terrible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a chronic issue in this country for some reason. Most people are chronically dehydrated and don't even know it.
Excuse me.
So, yeah, I brought up some interesting things on here today.
That's what I love, is that we can, get away from my rules, because I imagine that people are getting tired of them. I imagine they're getting tired of them.
Well, I mean, a lot of people are like, because we get on here and we read and research and educate ourselves about the laws.
Yeah.
Just trying to learn them.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to learn them. How can you uphold your rights if you don't know the laws that apply to them?
Right. Well, yeah, it was so bad on my part, because I had a computer back then and I knew how to search, but for some strange reason, I didn't go and search the internet about CPS or all the horrors. And when I got the complaints for 5 years, I was able to diffuse them. I'd meet outside. There were occasions sometimes to come to my home. They found nothing. And so I was able to diffuse it for 5 years. And that was, when I lost my job through no fault of my own. But it's terrible how other people, these were my in-laws, who never liked me from the start and never supported their daughter. And for 32 years, we've been together. And they didn't come to our wedding. My parents did, but their parents didn't. And they, from time to time, would always try to influence our children. They'd fly them out to visit, and I always encouraged them to see their grandparents. I did not know that they're brainwashing them. It's me and my 2 girls. I have another girl that's an older girl, and then my young girl that was taken away. I have 3 daughters, and all 3 of them I'm estranged from, and that's sad. That's really sad. One I've not seen since I was 3 years of age. And it's sad how some people cannot see beyond their nose. I mean, families need both parents. If one of the parents has problems, it can be corrected. It's not the end of the world. I really don't think that most parents are child beaters or child haters. You're born in this world with no handbook of how to raise a child. And have someone trying to call in. I can only do one call at a time for the caller that called in. No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't know if they're in the room or not, so they could tell me in the room. So, because I'm saying this thing about a handbook. You don't even know anything about dating. I mean, they'd stopped in school. They don't have the life classes anymore in school. You used to be able to get sexual information. You used to get information about drugs, and you used to get information about smoking, the bad things. I mean, when I was in seventh grade, I took a class, and my God, that showed you in the seventh grade that showed you a picture of your black lung and how hard it is to breathe. And I was playing sports. I said I don't want it, and I didn't like the smell of smoke. And most people that start smoking start coughing right away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
yeah, they showed us. They showed us a lot of stuff in school in the sexual education classes and stuff.
Oh.
You know, some of it was like pretty gross.
Well, here's the thing: is with my children, I got a book, and I gave them the book, but I also talked about it. But I talked to it as a scientist. See, I have a bachelor of science in marine biology, so I'm very scientifically. Yeah. So I talked to him, and I bored him to death. I used the correct terms to describe the body parts, what their function for reproduction, and so forth. They didn't see anything fun with it, and maybe that worked. My older daughter did start, I guess, sexually active when she was in her late teens, but my two boys didn't start. Well, one boy's 18. He has not had a date with a girl yet. He went to the prom alone. He went to homecoming alone. So he knows what girls are, but they're concentrating in school. My older son, who's 24, has a girlfriend now, and they have a beautiful relationship. They're involved in church, and somehow it's come out great for them. I'm really happy for them. With me, I was too much playing around in high school. I discovered girls early on. So, I was in that society that started out in the 60s with free love, the hippie generation, and the Woodstock.
Yeah.
It was like there. So I wish in school that they would have a class every year of your high school, your 4 years, since high school now is a 4-year school with no longer junior high, it's called middle school. And they no longer have ninth grade with the middle schoolers. It's 6th, 7th, and 8th, and the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Well, there's 4 years. They can make it mandatory to take a class that teaches about a lot of things: dating, sexual education, drugs, how to ask a girl out. There are such bad behaviors that boys learn. They are all the time with their tongue hanging out chasing girls. And God made us that way to procreate the world. But, it's like there's no responsibility. And if they get a girl pregnant, they jump ship. And that's sad, because you and I have talked about that, is that there's no responsibility for guys. Yeah. And on CPS cases, so many of the CPS cases are mothers without fathers. And some of them have 6 fathers. I'm sitting here saying, okay, that's father number 1, father number 2, and none of them are involved. None of them are giving child support. None are giving support to the kids. And it's wonder that the kids have problems out there. It really is. So I think having...
Yeah.
I think it is. I think it is. So if you did that every semester, you could do all kinds of things. Things about cooking, about the proper eating. They could even have a class in your senior year about CPS. Because
when I was going to school, they did have house. I guess it was called like house something. But anyway, they taught us to cook, to sew, and things like that.
Right.
But I think like you're saying, it should have all of what you said in some way. They can alternate between them. But I think kids need to be taught how to manage money,
right,
how to invest money,
right,
how to build credit,
right,
how to manage a checking account, or even just manage manage finances, and all that. They need to be taught all that. A lot of times kids get out of school and a lot of them can't even do the most basic of math.
Yes, you're right.
I'm like, you went through all these years of school and you can't even do the most basic of math. Like, that doesn't speak well for the education system.
No, because the education system, and again, I think if more people were educated about CPS, they'd have a better handle on it. They would definitely, if you told them that you have to be positive in school, so you can't tell them that CPS is crooked, but you can tell them to be careful of government agencies and careful that not all things are truthful, is what you see. You got to find out for yourself. There's a way you can present the material in school. I mean, I'm a teacher. I have a teaching credential in secondary education. I teach high school chemistry and biology advanced placement. It's the college level class that you take in high school. So I teach a lot of that. I've also teach at the university, and I taught on a class called Marine Mammals and Husbandry of Cetaceans, and that is the care and taking care of marine mammals and about what marine mammals are. I'm talking about your whales and your dolphins, your walruses and even the marine birds like the penguins and so forth. And so I've worked as an animal trainer too. I used to train killer whales, these big giants that were in oceanariums. The one that I worked at is gone out of business. Well, not go out of business. It was bought by the big one, SeaWorld. And I refused to work for SeaWorld because they killed the male that I used to train because they put him in with other younger males and they killed him. Because when they bought Marineland of the Pacific and hauled them down, they see the Animal Protection Act of 72 said that you no longer can take killer whales in captivity. They protected them. And so they had to breed them. And the biggest breeding pair was the Marineland of the Pacific, and that was Orky and Corky. And it was hard for me because they took them down when they bought out SeaWorld, Marineland Pacific, and brought them down to SeaWorld. Immediately, the young males attacked the older male and killed him. And that was hard. Now, the female's still alive. I still see her. I mean, I've been with her, training her since, oh my goodness gracious, I want to say almost 50 years. And she's still okay. She still recognizes me. I go down to SeaWorld there and I do say hi to her and stuff. But anyway, being a marine animal trainer was nice. It was fun. Being a scientist as a marine biologist was fun. It's nice. Even being a school teacher was fun and nice. Those three professions didn't afford a lot of money. And my problem is I got lost in the money world. So I went into civil engineering where they make 4 times, 5 times more in salary than they do as an animal trainer or marine biologist. I mean, it's ridiculous what you're getting as a marine biologist. You go to school for all these heavy classes and everything, and you're getting paid. Of course, in those days, I don't know what it equate to today, but it may be $7 today's standard. It was 4.25 when I was being paid as a scientist with all the education. Where in civil engineering, I'm paid $150 an hour. So it's a lot different there. We have some people that came in here, Faye. We have Nadine Modge, who's been in here before. I forgot where you're from, Nadine Modge, but they say, can you imagine a 17-year-old that doesn't understand as he's in a 3-year-old mindset? Yes, that could be a special needs kids. CPA use that to totally butcher a case. I can imagine. I don't know if your child was a special needs child, but there are children that are 17 or older that act like a 3-year-old, has a mindset of a 3-year-old, and they have to be taken care of. They have to be taken care of their special needs. And in fact, that's what Faye does. She has her son who has special needs. She's taking care of him. And he's 22 and he cannot be on his own. And so she is a wonderful mother that tries her best to take care of her son. Now, we have a new person not seen before, the Outdoor Life. CPS, nothing but a bunch of liars. Yes, Outdoor life, I agree with you there. Yes, Nadine says he's severely autistic. They said he was sexually inappropriate and documented in the medical records. Oh my God, they took. That's another thing. This thing about sex. I mean, it's all around. You can't get away from it. But people are so bad about doing that.
You know what, Bob?
Yeah.
Nadine said that they used the child's disability to butcher their case.
Yeah.
Well, they did the same thing with me. They tried to get my son labeled by their psychologist with reactive attachment disorder. And if you look up reactive attachment disorder, it can be caused by long-term neglect from a newborn all the way up to the age of 5, meaning that the parent didn't nurture the child, the parent didn't hold the child when it cried, didn't change its diaper when it needed it, blah, blah, blah. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, I went and I researched that diagnosis because they put that diagnosis on my son. I researched it. I went to the library and spent probably a good 40 hours researching it. And then when he was able to go to a different psychologist, I brought it up to the psychologist that my son shouldn't be labeled with that, and here are the reasons why. And that psychologist agreed with me that he did not have RAD. So they were only trying to get their psychologist to diagnose him with RAD to make me look like a bad, neglectful parent.
Wow. Wow, I'm glad you shared that with me. I'm glad you shared that with me on that one. Nadine, Maj, what city and state are you from? I'm trying to get an idea of where you're located. And the outdoor life, where are you from? What city or state? Or if you're from a country, that's fine too. What country? But I'm trying to get an idea if you could share that with us. With special needs children, they are very fragile. They're going to be fragile all their life. And it's hard to find people, good mothers. And Faye, you're one of the very few that I know you care about your son. Danielle cares about his son. You as parents can say, well, I'll forget about my kids. You don't. I don't care. I mean, I have lost, my 3 older children don't talk to us. And I don't understand that. One of them hasn't talked to me since she was 3. Her mother brainwashed her thinking I was a bad man. And when she did a divorce on me, she said, you'll never see your daughter again. And she's done that. She's brainwashed. Kids are very easy to brainwash. I keep hoping and writing that one day I will see my 3-year-old, who now is 30. Her birthday was May 2nd, 36. And my older one left the home at 25. But she has suddenly turned against it. She now is 38, and she does not even talk to her mother, and she could have been aborted. You see, that's another thing. These children don't recognize how lucky they are. Our oldest son, who is 47, could have been aborted, and the mother decided to put him up for adoption, gave him life, and he turned out great. Minnesota, Minneapolis. Thank Nadine. Now I remember. Minnesota, Minneapolis. Right, Nadine. If you want to talk to Faye, she's opening up to you. I have about 7 minutes left of the show. I'm talking with Faye, and she brings up some interesting things about how statute of limitations are not true about everything. And it's so important for you all to realize that. It's so important for you to realize that. Okay. Nadine says this, and I'm already reading this out loud because Faye says she can't see the comments. Nadine says this: my son was held in the emergency room for 8 weeks when a CPS agent came into his space and stated that he reached out to touch her. Reached out to touch her. Every adolescent goes through sexual feelings, especially when they're caught up in a room with no light of day. Sexuality is normal, but with a child that has a 3-year-old mindset, he doesn't know what to do with his body, so he's going to act on his feelings. I talked to the head of NAMI, who reached out and spoke to them about how autistic children are. These feelings, I'm so glad you're sharing this, Nadine. Do you hear that, Faye? Do you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it. Thank you.
Are you seeing it in the room or not? Are you seeing it?
I am now. I wasn't before.
Okay. I don't know. Well, just recently there is. So that is so nice you're sharing that with me on that one. The other person in the room who's new, I've not seen before, the outdoor life, or maybe you've been on before, but I don't know where you're from, what city or state. Be nice you share that. I was talking earlier about rule number 3, not letting them in your home. Don't talk to them. That's very important. You don't need to. And also, there's medical trafficking where you go to the hospital either to have a baby or you take your sick child in, and the next thing you know, CPS is there taking your children. That's wrong. That's against the law. They cannot do so. You do not give them permission. And if you can exercise your rights and tell the doctor or the nurse, I don't want them in my room. This is my birthing room. I'm having a child. And I'll deal with the legal implications later. But I need to have my child birth and nurse my child. Or if my child's sick, I do need to seek help. I may get his pediatrician or another doctor for a second opinion. But you don't take my child. I'm not refusing. See, a lot of times CPS workers think you're refusing help from a doctor when you suggest you want to go elsewhere. And that is your right as a parent. You still have medical and educational rights. Those are not terminated right away. They're not terminated right away. So, medical trafficking is bad in CPS. So with that said, I think it's important that you fight for your rights. They have to have a court order, a warrant, just like coming in the home. They have to have a court order, a warrant. So that's my rule number 3. My rule number 1 was to find an attorney. And I have one right now that you can talk to for 30 minutes. He can be reached. His name is Vincent W. Davis. He's the one that produces the podcast. I want to thank him for producing this podcast. Without it possible, I wouldn't be able to express myself about CPS or tell you. He can be reached at the office at 888-888-6582. You just tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And then when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. He'll do a consultation for $60 for 30 minutes. That's 30 minutes, $60. So we're getting close to the end of our podcast. And so another way that you can do that is that you can also text his schedule, and you want to go to, let me get his schedule here. I got the wrong. You want to go to Candely, CALENDLY.com /law office VWD /Bob Pace. That is Candely, CALENDLY.com /Vincent W. Davis Bob Pace. And you can speak to his calendar, and you can go ahead and does a consultation. So that's important. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and thank you, Faye, from the bottom of my heart for being here. You're really great. Faye has put up another link there in the room. That's great for all of you. I want to thank Nadine from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm so sorry about your child being molested in CPS's care. That's terrible. Thank you, The Outdoor Life. I agree with you that CPS is a bunch of liars. And thank you, all my people that call in and that I know you care about your child. Keep trying, be positive, and I will see you later tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is God bless you. This is Bob and Faye signing.